Side, do my little intro, and then we can do your intro.
All right.
What's up, guys? Welcome to a very, very special edition of Blue Presents a podcast where I discuss all things music and how it affects my life. And I'm joined by my good friend, AJ Pelletier of the Roads We've Traveled podcast.
What's going on, everybody?
Hey, man. So this kind of happened, man. I saw your post, man. I went to listen to your podcast, man. Gave it a try, man. And I definitely am a fan. I like I said before we got started, I like your conversational approach to your interviews. Whereas I feel like I'm more of a straightforward kind of interview. So since this is your first time on my show, and this is my first time on your show, I'm going to start with...
This is the crossover episode.
Exactly. So I'm going to start with my first question. I always say to everybody, what are your top 5 artists?
That's such a hard question because like I'm very diverse when it comes to like rock and rap and whatever. And I mean, like I've listened to a few episodes from your podcast, and like everyone's go-to is like Metallica and Killswitch Engage. And don't get me wrong, like they're all great artists, but I mean, like as far as like bands that have changed my life, I definitely have to say, like, you know, I might get a lot of shit for it, but I really don't care. It shaped me into the vocalist that I am today. Stained is definitely number 1 in my book. When I picked up Break the Cycle for the first time, it changed my life because I was going through a lot of shit in my life, and Break the Cycle definitely hit home for me and got me through a lot of dark times. Definitely Cold was another one. Is, you know, we were talking off air. You saw my tattoo.
Yeah, we're talking about the underappreciated love for Cold, for real.
Yes, and they're a bunch of great guys, by the way. I've met them a few times. Definitely underappreciated. Loved 13 Ways to Bleed on stage. And
that's the one that got me. That is my introduction.
Yep, and I mean, like, just how far they've progressed musically, too, as, like, artists, from going from, like, something really heavy and grungy to, like, really light and melodic and experimental. And like a lot of diehard Cold fans are giving him shit for it, and like I kind of agree with Scooter because he went off on a couple fans on Facebook a while back when the new album dropped. He was like, how about you just grow, you know what I mean, just grow as people that appreciate music instead of just the same style that you're used to or whatever, you know. Like, and I fully agree. You know, maybe he handled it the wrong way, but I mean, like, whatever. I
think that's one of those. Yeah, I think that's one of those things where you should think about, you know, the source of where it's coming from, rather than letting people just kind of, it only takes a couple seconds to look at what you're about to either write or post before you post it, before you make that post, because it just takes a second before it's cancel Scooter. You know what I'm saying? Especially nowadays, the day and age, man.
That cancel culture, yeah.
Oh my God, bro! It's like ants on a carcass. You know what I'm saying? They're just tearing that thing apart, man. And it takes only a couple of seconds before you start to realize, because you get in whatever you do, you're gonna always get shit. You're gonna get people who love what you do, and then you're also gonna get people who absolutely think you suck.
Look, I'm a firm believer in, like, if you've done something wrong, apologize for it. You know what I mean? We're all human beings here. We all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect in this world. You know, I've looked at my Facebook memories and I've seen shit that I posted like 10 years ago, and I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? You know what I mean? Like, and it's all part of growing up too and maturing too, you know. And for people to like say one thing, say, hey, listen, that was my bad, I own up to it, and then still get shit for it, like, it makes no sense to me. You know, especially if you're like really sorry for it. You know what I mean? Like, I believe in second chances.
Yeah. You ever look at your timeline and go, God, I was so emo?
Yeah.
Like, from way back when. Just like, where did all this darkness come from? Because like now I'm like 34, married with 2 kids, man. And like, I'm not saying life is always like the happiest thing. We still go through things. I mean, I've got kids, man. Kids kids present their own obstacles, but it's not as bad as it was before, man. Between homelessness and raising a kid by myself, man, you know, some crazy stuff. But anyways,
well, I'm going to ask you about that when we get into my questions then. But
okay,
let's yeah, because
let's finish up this top
That's basically
five.
what my podcast is about, getting to know people better. Like, okay, so anyway, so Stained Cold. It's kind of a toss-up between Fuel and Creed, because I got into those two bands like when I first discovered rock music. I really loved Creed and I really loved Fuel. Like Something Like Human was my favorite album from Fuel. My Own Prison from Creed, and then Human Clay was amazing. I mean, Weathered was okay. Full Circle was amazing when that came out, and I got really pumped that I got to see them before they went on their hiatus and Alter Bridge got back together.
I love that eye roll you just did, Undertaker.
I love Alter Bridge. Don't get me wrong, but like Scott Stapp didn't have a good time a few years ago, and I'm glad he's better now. Like my friend Otan, who I interviewed on my last episode, he's hung out with Scott Stapp quite a few times.
Wow.
And, Scott Stapp is in a lot better place now, so I'm happy for that. He's an amazing vocalist. So we got Stained Cold. It's a toss-up between Creed and Fuel. Definitely Parkway Drive.
Okay.
When I got into heavier music, I was a tattoo apprentice at the time for a little while, and one of the other apprentices introduced me to Parkway Drive, and the first track I heard was Sleepwalker, and I was just like, holy fuck, like what is this? I was already listening to Killswitch, and Killswitch would probably be my last one. But when I listened to Parkway Drive, I was like, yo, this fucking song kicks, dude. Like, I picked up everything from Parkway Drive after that. I was fortunate enough to see them in Massachusetts a couple years ago. And God, they put on a hell of a show. And just their music just, like, pumps me up. Whenever I'm at the gym, like, I just fucking get through my workouts and everything, like, no problem. And like I said, Killswitch would probably be my last one, because between Jesse and Howard, it's hard to choose which vocalists I prefer better, because they both bring their own thing to the table.
Yeah.
And I could appreciate both of them as vocalists and as lyricists too, because they both brought something to the table that made the band very different and better at the same time. So I mean, old Killswitch, I love old Killswitch. When Howard came to the mix, I fell in love with the band even more. And like I do love the fact that Jesse's back and he got to grow more as a musician, as a vocalist. He got more training, and he sounds a lot better than he did years ago. So, but
I mean, there's nothing wrong. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. So real quick, I'm going to tell you a story, man, real quick before we get into it. I was actually really, really lucky enough in 2007 to actually open for Parkway Drive, and this was back.
No shit.
Yeah, this was back when Horizons came out, and they were actually on tour with Killswitch Engage, and they had an off day, and they came. I think they were playing in Atlanta, and Parkway drove, I think, about 6 hours to Jacksonville, Florida, where I was living. I lived there for about 12 years, and they were the headliners, and then it was 4 other local bands. And it was in this really it was a venue that probably shouldn't have been what it was, but it was a venue that probably shouldn't fit 300 kids, but it did. And let me tell you something, from the moment these guys started to the time that they were finished, it was kids on top of other kids, just absolutely going ape shit. It was it was one of those shows where it was either going to end with a massive brawl or it was just going to be one massive pit. And it was, man, it was like surviving, and then when it was over, everybody was just exhausted, tired, and had the best time of their fucking lives, bro. And
I'm
such an amazing thing.
I'm too old for that shit, man. I've had spinal surgery. When I saw Parkway Drive at the Palladium, I went with my buddy John Michael, who was a guest on one of my episodes, and he was like, yo, I'm going down to the floor level. I'm like, you have fun. I'm going to sit up here.
No, this was one of those situations where, like, I don't think that Horizons was just about to drop, and they weren't really like the force that they are now, where they could pack out a fucking venue. But us kids in Jacksonville knew who they were. I actually kind of got to know them through I Killed the Prom Queen. Because I forgot
about them. They were amazing. Yeah.
They had a split together that a friend of mine's, Josh Tyson, shout out to Josh Tyson because it's actually his birthday today.
Oh, happy
He was the
birthday.
one, yeah, he was the one who introduced me to them. Yeah, man, ever since then, Australian metalcore has been a force in my life, even though I live in the United States.
It's no joke. There was a band that opened up for them that night at the Palladium too. Oh my God, I forget the
What
fucking
happened to
band.
be In Heart's Wake?
No, it began with a P. They were also from Australia. I'm like,
Blanking on the name. Yeah.
yeah, I'll have to let you know when we get off air once I figure it out. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like, they were on the tour with them, and they were fucking amazing. I picked up their album, and it was just, I was like, dude, Australia is a fucking force to reckon with.
I was gonna say, I don't know what's in the water over there, man, but they write some slamming riffs, man.
Hell yeah, they do.
For
Hell
real.
Yeah. So, but anyway.
So real quick, like my podcast, we're talking about the journey into music. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So how did it start for you, AJ, man? How did you get into music?
So, I said this on the Desiree episode, but I'll say it for your listeners too. I got into music at a young age. My father was the lead singer of our church choir growing up, and my sister and I could both sing. I'm one of 4 kids, and I'm the middle child, along with my sister. So we both could sing, and we were both in youth choir together, and that's how I got into singing. And then I tried playing instruments and stuff growing up. Like I say tried. I did take lessons for a little while. Like I took piano for a few years. I gave that up. I played sax for a little while when I was in elementary school. I gave that up. I played guitar in high school. I can still play a little bit, but I can't play enough to save my life. Vocals were just like where I was heading, and I ended up taking lessons professionally for a number of years. Especially when I got injured for my back, like I just kept singing and stuff just to keep my mind off of stuff. And then from there, I was out of work because of my injury and everything. I was just losing my mind. I had to move back home because I wasn't making any money at the time. So I had to find something to take my mind off of stuff. So I went on a website called Bandmix, and I had a profile for a while, but it wasn't really anything major. So I just updated it and threw some raw tracks on there or whatever. And then Pete Rizzo emailed me. Pete Rizzo from In the Red.
Yes, I know.
And
and
at the time he just got rid of his old singer because his singer had a dated voice. Which meant he had like a 80s style kind of like singing style that didn't really fit the genre that they were going for. So he sent me a couple tracks. He says, hey, listen, we're looking for a vocalist, you sound pretty good, why don't you come audition? So I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So the first couple songs I learned was Bad Apple, Summer and Lightning, and I think it was Without Trust. I don't remember, but so I went up, I auditioned, got the gig, and within the first 2 weeks of getting the gig, I had to write a song. I had to learn 7 others that were already written, and then we were headlining a show at the Webster, with a bunch of other local musicians for this. I don't know if you remember Guerrilla Music.
Yeah, I'm kind of unfamiliar with it because, and then this is kind of getting my story. I kind of didn't really I got into music through Springfield's music scene, but I actually grew through Jacksonville, Florida's music scene.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's kind of weird. I know some things and know absolutely nothing. Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
So Guerrilla Music was a promotional company that reached out to a lot of local musicians. They, I don't want to say anything bad, but they didn't really do anything for us. But they put this show together at the Webster that had at least 30 other bands on the bill. There was no major national recording artist for the show. And for some reason, we were one of the 3 headliners. I was like, what the fuck? I just joined this band 2 weeks ago, and we're headlining the Webster Theater. Okay. So needless to say, that was an experience. And, they don't do shows like that anymore at the Webster with local bands because it wasn't really a great turnout. But from there, it just escalated. We played Bless you.
Sorry about
We
that.
played Geraldine's in
Hmm.
Massachusetts a couple months later
Hmm.
for this band called Triple X, and Ollie Herbert was there that night. I got to meet Ollie for the first time.
Hmm.
He was pretty drunk that night.
Yeah.
That was a funny story. I said hi to him after the show, and he was like, "Oh, you were the guy in the opener, right?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Oh, you did a great job." And I'm like, "Oh, can I buy you a beer?" So he says, "Nah, I'm good. I'm pretty buzzed right now." And I'm like, "Shit." I was like, "You must be drunk then to think I was good then." So
Oh man, that's funny. That's awesome, man.
I did get a picture with him, and that was a good time. But yeah, and then it just escalated from there. We started playing like a bunch of local shows and a lot of big shows at the Webster. We played
Hmm.
with Hailstorm, Nonpoint,
Hmm.
Powerman 5000, Head PE, Seven Dust, like a bunch of big names. And
Hmm.
I left towards the end of 2015, early 2016. Chris and I both left. Chris was one of the founding members of In the Red. And from there, my friend Cody took over for me.
Hmm.
And shortly after that, I went back to band mix. I didn't think I was gonna like jump right back into a band, but I'm sure we'll get into this later in the interview.
Hmm.
But
Yep.
that's when Steve from Devil Inside hit me up.
Yeah, man.
So.
So real quick, and if anybody wants to hear more about the In the Red time that AJ had, man, you guys should definitely check out his interview with Cody. It's an awesome interview. It was kind of the first one I got to listen to, and kind of sat back and was like, oh shit, they're getting in there, man. There
Yeah.
was some stuff, yeah. Yeah, it was a great episode because you guys were being honest about, you guys were in the band at two different times, and you guys were just being honest about each other's experience and what you guys think was kind of a hindrance or a problem. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And unfortunately, in being honest, some people may not take it the best way, but you guys were just being honest with yourself and kind of recognized there was a problem there, and much success to In the Red, and hopefully they continue to keep going and they find as passionate vocalist
Yeah.
is either one of you guys, man, for real.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I just saw Pete's status today, saying that he got a new haircut and new band members. So I mean, good for him. I still, I no, I still support
yeah,
Pete.
yeah. Hmm.
Pete and I get along better now that I don't work with him. It's just one of those
Yeah.
things where like you work together,
Hmm.
things don't work out. You don't want to stay and end up hating the person. You know what I mean? So, and it took us a while to get back to that too. But we're better friends now than we were working together.
Yeah, sometimes distance makes things a little bit better when you guys aren't in each other's grill 24/7.
Exactly.
Um, so there was something interesting that I heard on one of your episodes where you talked about, how high school was for you growing up, kind of, being bullied. And, me and you have that kind of in common because I'm a Puerto Rican kid who went to a predominantly, Puerto Rican and black school where no one listened to metal. You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
kind of got into it through the radio and through some friends I met over the summer, in the summer of, like, I want to say 98, 99, kind of got to um, get in my feet into music. How do you think, um and it's a difficult question, but I think it kind of shapes you as a person because it seems like it's kind of molded you through some of the things you've been through. How did bullying kind of, in a weird way, kind of help you want to be a better vocalist and be able to write songs that people can relate with because you went
I mean, it wasn't fun. Like, I'll tell you
no,
that right
no, for
now.
real.
It
Fuck
was
that.
not fun. I mean, there were days where like
Hmm.
I snapped a few times, like,
Hmm.
to the point where I even scared myself because like I was
Hmm.
constantly getting berated by this one guy, and then his buddies would join in and pick on me and beat me up in the locker room and whatever. And like half the teachers knew what was going on too, and they weren't even doing anything about it. And
Insane.
it was totally insane. It was wrong,
Hmm.
and like I even got some shit from some teachers too. And this was a totally different time period too,
Yeah.
and you can't get away with shit like that right now. So it was just like very unjust to me. Like, I was going through a lot of shit in my personal life. My parents were separating. My grandfather wasn't doing too well, and just home life wasn't great at all. And then
Hmm.
going to school to escape from that kind of stuff, only to get berated and picked on, and tortured like that. And I mean, like, it wasn't all bad. I did have friends in high school too.
Hmm.
It's just hard to forget a lot of the negativity that happened, but it was just very tough. And I got very depressed. I got very suicidal. Um, I listened to a lot of depressing music that helped me
Hmm.
through. Hence why I say Stained. They got me through a lot of dark times in my life. And I had to go through therapy too. And when I realized that, bands like Stained were helping me through my
Hmm.
dark times, it just, made me realize, like, I want to do this for somebody too, because what I'm going through isn't, it isn't fair, it isn't right sometimes, but it's a part of life. And
Hmm.
it just makes you grow into a better person. And I feel like I became a lot stronger mentally and emotionally because of what I had to endure. And I wanted to shed some light on what I've been through and maybe share it with other people that are probably going through the same thing. So
That's
I don't know if that really answers your question, but
no, it does. It does, man, because it kind of like it shows you, like, for me, um, there was a lot of physical violence from people, um, just because they didn't understand, why I painted my nails, or why I wore big pants, or why I wore a band T-shirt, and unfortunately, that type of stuff, I didn't start wearing that stuff till the end of high school. Before that, we were just fucking poor, bro. Like, I think being poor was just a nice thing to say. So a lot of what I wore was whatever my mom got at the Goodwill. It was what it was. I always look back to how my kids are growing up now to how I grew up, and I'm glad my kids will never know that kind of struggle. You know what I'm saying? But also at the same time, I want them to know that just because you end up there doesn't mean that's how you have to be as a person. That's how you have to continue. I unfortunately have had, and I think we've all had people that were significant to our lives that we lost at a very young age. You know what I'm saying? I had my mom, I had my dad, but they were they didn't like each other very much. So, and they publicly made it be known, which made my life between the both of them extremely difficult. And both of them had their reasons, I'm sure. Um, but I always felt, and even now, as I am a father of a son who doesn't get to see his mom, I try to help facilitate their relationship the best that I can, even though I have him all the time.
mm,
You know what I'm saying? And sometimes it's a little difficult because she lives in Florida and I'm over here in Massachusetts. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
that type of stuff, and then being bullied at school. I mean, everything from being spit on because I was wearing Converse and I wasn't wearing Jordans, or being shoved down because somebody thought it was funny, or one time some kid thought it was cool to pour chocolate milk on top of my head for whatever reason, and it led to, like, some big trouble. And in actuality, I got in more trouble than he got in more trouble. So just kind of those things, unfortunately. But also at the same time, in a weird way, it kind of molded me through going through the fire, and it made me think that's not what I want for my life. That's
Yeah.
what I don't want for somebody else's life. And like you said, in being able to understand that music was helping you get through things. And I often equate how I got into heavier music as a light coming on in a room that's been dark for so long.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? It was almost like you're at a place, and you don't know quite where to fit in, and then you find this music that just transforms you. It sinks into you so deeply, and it's the only thing you can breathe, exist, talk, do anything. You know what I'm saying? Just, this was me. And even now, as I've become older and I'm kind of phasing out of being a vocalist into doing a new avenue such as podcasting and being creative, I'm finding it's still fun, man. It's still fun. And now, instead of performing music, I get to talk with people like you and talk about the music. You know what I'm saying? Which I mean, if you're a real musician, talking about it is just as fun as performing.
yeah. It's just like reliving old memories again.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
like war stories,
Yeah, worse.
It's like, remember that one time we didn't get paid for
Yeah.
going, 100 and something miles to go play a show?
Lucky enough to get gas money,
Let me tell you something, man. So when I was in Florida, I was in a band called Wings of Victory. And I want to say, thank you to Antonio Jackson, Kyle Hoffer, Kevin Miles, Rusty Townsend, man, because those were my dudes. And they, we traveled up and down the roads, man. Weekenders or whatever little spot we could get ourselves into, man. And shout out to my boy Dylan Ponce, who was on drums, man. And we got so lucky to play certain shows, but a lot more times than not, we left empty-handed like a motherfucker, or we left and there was a car issue.
Thankfully, we never had any issues like that. For the most part, we all had our shit together, minus me sometimes. I kind of had, you know, I remember one time, I'll never forget this show. So so we opened for Days of the New years ago.
Okay.
I don't know if you heard this story or whatever, but man, I'll tell you guys. I'll tell my listeners and your listeners too. But so for those that don't know, Days of the New broke up years ago because of the ego and the that their singer had, Travis Meeks, and plus he also had a really bad drug addiction. And some of the members started Tantric, if I'm right about that.
Okay.
Yeah, so they branched off to do Tantric after that.
Okay.
But they did a reunion tour a couple years back, and they were playing at Bleachers in Bristol. And we got hit up from I forget who was promoting the show, but it was literally like 2 weeks before the show started, and one of the bands had to back out, so we got asked to play. So we're like, yeah, fuck yeah, we'll play that show. And we sold like 40 tickets in like 2 weeks. So I mean, it was just pretty good for like, you know, last minute. So, and we get the day of the show, my car broke down. Like, I had to hit up my buddy. I was like, dude, I was already having a shitty day. My car broke down. My buddy had to bring me to the show. So I get there. I'm helping my drummer unload and everything. And when I get there, fucking Travis is doing sound check. And I don't know if you know the guy from Bleachers, Kevin, who does the sound there.
Yeah, I'm unfamiliar.
The guy knows his stuff. Like, he is super professional, super pro when it comes to running the sound there. He knows how everything's got to sound. He runs the lights perfect. Like, he knows his shit. And he's just getting berated by Travis the whole time. And, you know, he's being very patient, you know, like, okay, like, what about this? What about that? Blah, blah, blah. So, like, sound check goes fine after that. But Travis is just being a dick. So I'm loading my drummer's gear in, and Travis is standing in my way. And like, you've been to Bleachers before, right?
Oh, unfortunately, that is one of the venues I have not been able to go.
All right, so there's this giant island in the middle of the whole venue, and like towards the back, there's like I think there's a pool table near the jukebox or whatever. But anyway, it's like between the island and the back wall there. Everyone piles their gear there. So it's like very narrow to like get in between there and get to the stage. So Travis is just standing right in the fucking way with a plate of food in his hand. And I've got my drummer's bass drum in my fucking hand. I've got like a bag full of gear, and I'm like, hey, can he move? And he pretended like he didn't hear me. I'm like, hey, can he fucking move? And he turns around and he was looking at me with this dirty ass look like, excuse me? I'm like, get the fuck out of my way. So I just walk right past it. I drop all the shit on the stage, and then he loses his shit, right? He's like, they better not fucking touch my gear. If anything, he's yelling to his roadie. He said, get all my shit off the fucking stage right now. I don't want to fucking. Yeah, he lost his fucking shit. So I dropped everything, and my drummer's next to me at this point. I dropped everything, and Travis is like, I don't know, a couple feet in front of me. I drop everything. I'm winding back to fucking clock him in the back of the fucking head. My drummer grabbed me. He was like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Don't do it. I'm like, let me go. Let me fucking go. Like, I've never had an issue ever. Like, I've hung out with Hailstorm, Seven Dust. Like, I've hung out with all these great musicians. I've never had a bad experience with any of them. Always. Travis Meeks was the biggest fucking asshole I've ever met in my life.
Oh my God.
And, he even fucking was telling off fans too. Like, he's sitting at the bar. He came down from Canada to see this show, and all he wanted was an autograph. And Travis was like, no, I don't sign autographs. And then like walked up. I'm like, this dude came from Montreal. Like, he drove all the way the fuck down here to see you play, and you're gonna dog him like that? I'm like, wow. So then we play the show. And the locals like fucking killed it. Like, we absolutely crushed it. The whole crowd was hyped up, whatever. And I didn't stick around after because I was like, fuck Days of the New. Like,
exactly.
I'm not sticking. I heard through the grapevine after that he got up on stage and he stood there. He didn't sing. He didn't do nothing. And he was bitching at the sound guy the whole time, saying, I can't hear myself, the mix is wrong, blah, blah, blah. So then, like, he walked off stage, and that was the end of it. So everybody that paid $20 to see Days of the New that day did not get to see them play.
That is, see, that's another point that I have, where sometimes meeting people that you either respect or you enjoy, you know what I'm saying? And it wasn't necessarily the band itself. It was the vocalist being, you know, a dog shit piece of human, you know what I'm saying? And that's the one thing sometimes in music where they don't realize that interaction with another artist or an up and coming artist or an artist who's just starting out, that can actually shape the rest of that artist's career to think, oh, okay, well, this guy was a douchebag to me. I'm going to be a douchebag to the next guy when I get into his position, or if I get into a better position. And unfortunately, I've seen that stuff happen way too many times, man, where you're hyped to meet, you know, so-and-so vocalist or so-and-so guitar player, and they fucking big time you, man.
Yeah.
It's a shitty thing, man. It really is a shitty thing.
Yeah. And the funny thing was, is like 2 months later, I saw an article posted online saying Days of the New broke up. And I'm like, who the fuck saw this coming? This guy.
No, that's
I posted that whole thing
Mm-hmm.
on Facebook. I was like, I wasn't going to say this or whatever, but I was like, Travis Meeks is a fucking asshole. This is what happened.
Oh
I
my
fucking
God.
Dude, all my friends in the local scene were like, yo, we would pay to see you fuck up Travis Meeks.
Oh my God, bro. That's like today. I don't know if you saw, but there's an article going around about Maddie from the band For Today.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, he unfortunately had some really nasty comments to say about people and abortion and stuff. And I get it. I mean, I don't get it. Okay, I don't get why people bash people. I understand that he has a strong religious belief, and that's cool and all, and much respect to people who have religious beliefs, or if you don't believe in anything or whatever your case may be. My problem is when you start to force an ideal on someone because you believe it's correct, as opposed to just saying, hey, this is what I believe. I'm not expecting everybody to believe it because, I mean, you know, there's people here who believe, you know, what we're going through in the world is government made and whatever the case is. And then there's people who believe it's God made and God is punishing us. It's different perspectives on what's going on now. But also at the same time, we need to stop taking this idea and making it a belief for real. It's a big issue for me.
I was born and raised Catholic. Like I said, I grew up in the church, but man, I don't practice anymore. And I've got my own beliefs, and I do believe in a higher power, but I also believe in karma, and I believe in the universe and stuff like that. But I can't really get behind my religion as much anymore because of a lot of stuff that's been going on in the last couple of years. And if you know what, you still practice it, all the power to you, but don't preach it to me because I'll have some opinions. So, you know. Well,
my thing is just that if you're an artist who's trying to gain fans and stuff like that, there's nothing wrong with being rooted in a strong religious background.
Absolutely.
I grew up Southern Baptist. You know, so I'm used to preachers who, you know, the sermon's supposed to have been over an hour ago, but he's still going and hyperventilating and breathing deeply.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I mean, like to come over and tell me that I'm going to hell because I don't practice or whatever. I'm like, yo, like I didn't ask you to come over here and berate me for my beliefs. You know what I mean? You don't see me telling you, you know, that you're wrong, you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't do that to you. I'm a human being, you know. So
I have a coworker that I work with at my job that I will not say, and he told me about how another driver came up to him and told him that if he didn't change his life, he was going to go to hell like Kobe Bryant. And I was like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now? How dare you? Well, first of all, that's a harsh comment anyways. But how dare you tell someone else that they're living their life wrong and tell them that they're going to go to hell like somebody else or what you think is somebody else? And that stuff right there, that is a big no-no to me. There's nothing wrong with trying to say, hey, man, maybe you should come to my church or whatever the case is, which the coworker I'm talking about is religious. You know, he is religious and he does go to church with his family. But to say that to someone is so disrespectful
without
in
a doubt.
Any context.
I would have taken his Bible, thrown it at him, and been like, Kobe.
Oh my God, that is both wrong and amazing all at the same time. But no, man. So it's one of those things. Like I said, man, I don't think we should be, especially nowadays, man. We need to start embracing ourselves more, man. We need to start realizing that, you know, no matter how you slice it, if you cut me, I cut you, we're both gonna come. It's coming out red, man.
Yeah, exactly.
No matter what. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But you know, like, and I think that's cool that, you know, it sounds like you have a strong backbone, no pun intended, because you've had surgery. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Exactly. But it sounds like you know who you are, man, and you know that's some of the things that I find interesting about people, man. When you unfortunately, it takes time to understand what it is to be a human being, what it is to connect with other human beings. You know what I'm saying?
It could have gone a completely different way too, man. If I didn't like, you know, fight back a little bit and say, no, I'm not going to take this. Like, I don't know if you listened to the Scott episode, but I mean, like, I
did listen to that one. Yes.
I blackmailed my shop teacher just
Yes.
so I can get out of the environment I was in that I was getting stuck in.
Oh my God. Once again, that's the one thing I was talking about. Like so it was the Scott episode you were talking about being bullied and whatnot, and whatever. And, you know, and I believe I'm not mistaken, that's also the episode where Scott was, disproportionately upset that no one knew who Star Wars or what Star Wars was. He's like, I'm just a weird kid from Buffalo, and I'm just like, what?
And nobody knew Star Wars, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I grew up knowing what Star Wars was. Like, whatever.
I don't know how that would have went over in my school. I'm pretty sure somebody been like, shut the fuck up, you know? I think your ass. You tell me some shit like that.
Just like back then, though, it was like you were constantly being berated for being a nerd. You know what I mean? And now it's
exactly.
I'm a huge nerd. Like, I love pop culture stuff, but like, you know, back in high school, I can't be like, oh, did you guys catch the new episode of Batman the Animated Series or like this? Because I would get beat up for it. But now it's become so like second nature. Like, you know, even like the buffest dudes, like the biggest jocks or whatever, like, yo, did you read that new Green Lantern issue? Or like, you know, like what you like, what the fuck? Like,
exactly.
all these closet nerds are finally spreading their wings, and it's amazing. So
no, I remember this one kid, and I will always remember his name just because he looked like a combination of like a swole Puff Daddy. Like he looked like Puff Daddy, but he was like swole. He was on the football team, and his name was Sherman Wallace. I will always remember his fucking name, and I have a terrible memory, except for when it comes to movie trivia. Don't see me in the streets. My wife gets pissed off every time I watch a movie, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's that one girl from that one movie, from the one. She's like, oh my God, how do you know everyone?
I'm the same way.
Yeah, no, it pisses my wife off. But I remember Sherman Wallace one time. I had just come in with I want to say it was a new Slipknot shirt I had just come in with, and I think it was it looked like the first CD where it was like all their heads on a shirt, and then the Knot logo and whatnot. And he's just like, yo, what the fuck is wrong with you, dog, man? Like, I don't understand why you don't, you know what I'm saying? You always in here with the black shit and all this, and like, he was just like talking to me, and I was like, shut the fuck up, Sherman. And sure enough, because I said, shut the fuck up, Sherman, he chased me after school to whoop my ass because I told him to shut the fuck up. Like, and you know, it was whatever, man. You know, I took my lickings, and unfortunately, you know, I had a cousin who, I don't know what his problem was, but when we were growing up, as opposed to like when we got to teenagers, when we were growing up, it was his personal mission to beat my fucking ass. I had big Coke bottle glasses. I was awkwardly tall and stupid, and you know, just a bunch of other things that you are when you're between 8 and 10 years old. And he made it his personal mission to whoop my ass. Because
he probably had stuff going on in his life too that he was, you know,
I'm sure,
you know, and he just the way to, you know, get it out was lashing out at weaker individuals. I mean, unfortunately, that's what.
Oh, and the problem. Oh, you know what the even crazier part was? He's always, and even now, as a 30-something-year-old man, he's always been shorter than me, and he's always whooped my ass. But the problem is like, you know, like.
Now you can just like you can like pick him up now. Like what?
No.
No?
I always. No, I'm telling you right now. If you put me in a room with meat and a pit bull and tell me to fight my cousin Joey, I'll be in a room with the pit bull. Then fight my cousin Joey.
Well, hey, come on. Not all pit bulls are bad.
I love him. Don't get me wrong. I love him, and we've grown up, and we've grown, and we've become even closer. And I think even when we got as teenagers, we got closer together, and we kind of understood each other some more, and realized we were into the same things and stuff like that. It kind of changed our relationship. But when I was growing up, man, it was his personal mission to beat the shit out of me.
Yeah,
it is what it is, man. And,
Yeah.
and like I said, it's one of those things that molds you as a person. And it goes back to that whole thing where, unfortunately, you have to go through some things to understand what it means to be a better person.
Exactly. And I'm, you know, you got to be a strong-willed person to go through a lot of stuff like that too, because like I said, it could go two ways. You know, unfortunately, you know, I see it in the news all the time, you know, school shootings and stuff like that. You know, a lot of mentally unstable children that were bullied, and then all of a sudden they're shooting up schools. It's like, that's why mental health is such a, you know, a big issue in this country, and it's not being taken seriously up until, you know, I mean, like, it's starting to be taken a little bit seriously now, but it's not being talked about enough. And I still feel like there's a lot more we could do to save kids like that, and do more anti-bullying campaigns, and like putting a stop to that stuff, because nobody should have to go through what we had to go through as kids, you know. Like, it's not necessary. I mean, like, we're just very fortunate enough that we got through and came out the other side better people, you know. So
it's one of those things where you look back on certain things that have happened in your life, and I don't know if you are like me, when you make a mistake, you reflect, and you kind of open yourself up to the judgment. And if you're a person who likes to grow, you point out where you messed up. You know what I'm saying? I know there's particular situations in my life where I've had to, I probably may not have admitted it in the beginning, but had to step back and kind of reevaluate yourself. And I think the other problem with that, when you're talking about also about mental health, is the other issue is we don't have enough accountability too. You know what I'm saying? We're dealing with people who do things and say things, and no one's willing to step up and say, hey man, I'm sorry that made you feel that way. That wasn't my intention. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to, well, sorry that hurt your feelings, but, you know, and there's like my wife's told me, it's all about how you're saying it, not about what it is you're saying. You know what I'm saying? I can ask you a question two different ways. One of those ways you're not going to like. You know what I'm saying? One of those ways you're going to be more understanding. You're going to be like, okay, well, let me explain to you my side of it. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's another thing we need to take into account, is when we do offend someone, or we do hurt someone's feelings, or we're not being understanding, to try to say, hey, it may not be for me to understand, but I need to let this person, if I truly care about them, let them know, hey, that wasn't my intention, man. I got love for you, man, and I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, but, you know, there are some things I need to say to you, you know?
I fully agree. I fully agree, man. Fully agree.
For real, man. I think this is amazing. This is the first time we're meeting, man, and we're talking like we've known each other for fucking years. You know what I'm saying? So
definitely.
I don't know about you, man. You got any questions for me, man? We're getting.
I mean, like, it's been kind of like intertwining with stuff that I wanted to talk about. So I mean, like, I guess this is kind of chugging along the way it should be. So
exactly, yeah.
But I mean, how has it been during quarantine for you and your family?
Okay, so my situation is I have two kids, one 10, one 9, and both of them are in school. And like I said, you know, over here in the school district that we're in, they provided a Chromebook, and so we're doing school stuff. But you know, sometimes there's questions we can't answer. Sometimes the way the teachers send it to you, it doesn't make sense. So that's been a little bit frustrating. But I think the best part that's been going on is, you know, me and my wife have been employed, you know, and I know for some people that's not the case. So, you know, even though like with my job has gone from, it was already busy to we're busy forever now. You know what I'm saying? It's you know, anybody who's in the delivery service business right now and delivering anything, shout out to you, you know, and you know, shout out to the people who are helping people in hospitals, but really shout out to those people.
Shout out to the medical workers, the food industry, the manufacturers, and the delivery people, definitely.
Yeah, man, because I don't know if you've seen, you know, we were talking about the video that we saw, you know, with people being customers being disrespectful to people. But it's just one of those things like, all right, I have to remind myself that we're all humans, man, and we're all scared, and we're all going to handle this type of stuff differently, man, not the same way. But the other thing, too, is it makes me appreciate my wife even more, you know. Before this, you know, me and my wife, have known each other since high school. I was 17 and she was 15. And we didn't go to the same high school. We just happened to, one of those crazy love stories in music you meet at a show. And I just happened to be the vocalist for like a cover band at the time. And she happened to be dating a guy who the show was for. And yeah, I slipped her my number, and the rest, as they say, yeah. It's one of those things.
Oh, that's funny.
It's one of those things where, like, when you're young and
you slid in your DMs at a young age.
Yeah. I wouldn't say DMs.
You gave her your digits.
Exactly. And I did it in a way that I still, to this day, if you told me to repeat that same action, I probably couldn't pull it off fast enough.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Well, I mean, with technology and stuff like that, I'm sure it's probably different. But back then, it was literally a piece of paper. Here's my number. Hey, man, you want to hang out sometime? Whatever the case is. Mine knew her dude at the time was over that way, or whatever the case was. And yeah, so, and then the crazy part was we didn't even date more than like a couple months before we were just like, I don't like you don't like me, get away from me. You know what I'm saying? And then years later, Facebook happened, and at the time I was single, raising a 1.5-year-old by myself, and it's kind of how I met my wife. And from that moment on, she's been the absolute driving force. She's the reason why I have custody of my son. She's the reason why I have a credit card. She's the reason why I have a decent credit score.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? Like everything. But she's also the reason why I get up in the morning and I remind myself, the long hours that I'm having to do now because the world is the way it is, and the ability to continue to still be employed and work. It's the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, so my kids don't have to worry about whether or not we're going to eat or whether or not we're going to do, my kids have to worry about whether or not they're going to get what they actually want.
Exactly. That's good though. I mean, like we were talking about in the Desiree episode, how relationships are 50-50 and how we bring out the best in it. You have to find a partner that brings out the best in you as well as you bring out the best in them. And I think it's very healthy and very awesome to, find that in life. I'm still searching, but, so.
Hey, man, there's somebody out there for everybody. Because I'll tell you what, my wife will be the first one to tell you she didn't see herself being married. And, she definitely was against it. But in being together and, it was like there was a 5-year period where we're just like, no, you come. It's kind of like double dutch. You don't want to jump in because eventually you're probably going to trip, fall, and smack your head on the ground.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But
yeah. And I've smacked my head on concrete many times already. I mean, I was engaged once. I had a house. I lost all of it. I was cheated on numerous times.
Oh, I'm going to tell you right now, my son's mother is, I'm sure I smacked my head on the ground, kept bleeding, and kept hitting it a couple times with my son's mother, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think for me, it was just like my friends and family for that relationship. They're like, you should get out. And I'm like, I'm fine. I'm fine.
I'm not crying. You're crying.
But my last relationship, though, that I was in, I really thought I was going to wind up marrying this person. And unfortunately, it didn't work out. And, things happen for a reason. It is what it is. But,
like you said, relationships are 50-50. And what I'm finding with my wife, even though, so we've been together for about 3 years, and we're just coming up. September will be 1 year we've been married. So, yeah, it's a different experience. But the one thing I think back to is sometimes, and much like us as musicians, when we hear a song that we think is really good and somebody's like, no, it's not really that good because of XYZ, sometimes we need to remove ourselves and step back for a second and really evaluate what that person's saying. Consider the source, because is it coming from someone who wants to see me do good, or is it coming from someone who's a hater? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah. Someone who's just like, man, everything you do is trash, as opposed to, when my wife says something to me, it's coming from a place of, honey, I want you to do better, or honey, I want you to see something that you may not be seeing.
Yeah. Unfortunately, my ex told me, she was like, I need you to keep up with me. And I'm like, the fuck is that supposed to mean? Like, at the time I was, I just got laid off. I was struggling to, make ends meet. And
Mm-hmm.
we went on vacation. We went down south to see some family of hers, and
Mm-hmm.
she convinced me to go with her just to take my mind off of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, her mother was going through her divorce, so like,
Mm-hmm.
my ex was, thinking about that and then evaluating us. But like, and I was sick as a dog the whole time we were down there. I had a really bad sinus infection, like, and then I'm going out on
Mm-hmm.
hikes and shit. Like, I'm making the most of it. I wasn't complaining. And then we get back, and then she gives me this look like, I need you to keep up with me. And I'm like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? Financially? Like, what are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, I just need you to keep up with me. And I'm like, you're being very vague in so many ways. And then it just escalated downhill from there. And then we ended up breaking up shortly after that because we just
Yeah.
didn't
What?
work. I think she was overthinking
Mm-hmm.
her what was going on with her mother, and evaluating her life a little bit, because I mean, granted, yeah, I'm partially disabled, and she was a big health nut and liked to do a lot of things, and she was trying to get me to do a lot of stuff that she wanted me to do, like be a beach body coach with her and sell product and stuff like that. I'm like, look, I'm not going to push this product. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a great product, but I'm not going to, it's not something that I want to do. I mean, like I took my health very seriously too, but I mean, like, I'm not some miracle worker that's going to, sell to my
Yeah.
friends and everything and push my lifestyle on theirs, because I don't want to do that. I have my own life I want to live, and I've got things I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't understand that. She wanted to be a team doing this stuff together. And I'm like, no, this is your thing. Like, I want to
Mm-hmm.
do my thing. And we ended up butting heads a lot about that kind of stuff, and it just didn't work out in the end.
So let me ask you a question. What happened? What happened with the accident, man? What's up? Because I've heard you talk about it before. What exactly happened to you, brother?
So in 2009, I was working at this place in Cheshire. It was a pharmaceutical company, and we dealt with all the convalescent homes in the state of Connecticut and parts of Rhode Island. And I was working in the warehouse, and like, you know what a mezzanine is, right?
I believe so. Yes.
It's one of those like shelving units where you can like go
Yes.
upstairs and there's a second
Mm-hmm.
floor to it. I fell through one of those.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I fell through one of those. It was about a 12-foot drop. I hit a step ladder and landed on the concrete floor below. Yeah. I woke up to my coworker holding my neck in place, like screaming for someone to call 911.
So my question to you is, why are you not a millionaire right now?
I believe it or
Why
not,
don't you own half that company yet?
dude, I fought, and unfortunately, I didn't get a lot, but it was just basically enough to pay off my debt and
Mm-hmm.
medical bills and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Granted, it was a work-related injury, so a lot of it was through workers' comp, but
Mm-hmm.
I did have to end up set. But it was a long battle.
I bet.
To get all that. It was at least like, it happened in 2009. I didn't have my surgery until like 7 years ago, which was 2013.
And what kind of
Yeah.
surgery did you have? Did you have like a fusion surgery or something?
No, I had this thing called a hemilemonectomy, and basically what it was I had 2 herniated discs in my lower back, and they shaved like a window in my vertebrae, and they heat treated the damaged discs with a laser. So my discs are all scar tissue now, and they're just slowly like wearing away now, because I had a scare back in January where I was getting out of my car and something popped and I couldn't move. And yeah, it scared the shit out of me, because like my doctor was telling me it was basically a temporary fixed procedure. And I went back and saw him this year after that shit happened, and he was like, look, I'm not gonna lie to you, this is probably gonna happen again. I had another MRI done, and just all the scar tissue just built up even more. So but he was like, if worse comes to worse, you're back on my operating table, you're going to need a fusion or artificial disc. At that point, I'd probably push for the artificial. It's a lot more, invasive, because I got to go through the front and move all my organs out of the way to pull the discs out and put new ones in. But I know a couple people that have had it done and have had success from it. But unfortunately, it's very expensive. So
I was gonna say they're not covering any future medical costs even after that. Wow.
Nope. This is all on me now. So
what a shitty fucking deal, bro.
I just got slammed with a medical bill not too long ago, because after all that shit just happened back in January, I had to get an injection done, and I owe like $400 for that.
Oh man, that is fucking terrible.
Yeah.
At my job, we recently had about a year ago, a young lady who was making a delivery at a home, and she was backed up to the garage, and I guess the teenager in the house was pulling out and didn't see her and pinned her between the truck and his car. And mind you, I think she was maybe 5 foot, and pinned her between his car and the back of the truck. Broke her leg and then caused a contusion so bad her leg swelled up to almost double her size.
Oh my God.
Yeah. She was out of work, and I have yet to, I don't ever think she's coming back. But she ended up having to sue them, and then they were trying to get her. They tried to settle with her quickly. I think they offered her maybe $100,000.
Fuck that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And then they turned around and she, her and her lawyer, denied it. And then they tried to get her because she had a headset in her ear. They were trying to say that it was her fault because of that. And you hear the story from her and you're just like, are you fucking shitting me? Is this real life? Because whenever you see something like that happen, man, you automatically think, man, she about to have so much money.
Yeah.
She had to have over 13 surgeries, even a surgery to relieve some of the swelling in her leg, to just kind of like have her leg go back to normal.
That's fucking
because it's
insane.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, and I know a lot of people are scared of the virus, and I still do a lot to protect myself, but with my job, I'm more scared of a repetitive stress injury, turning or lifting something the wrong way, and then, kind of like you, and you're like, oh, something popped, and I cannot move.
And I work in manufacturing, man. I lift heavy stuff all the time, and every time I'm like, my back gets a little bit sore. I'm like, oh, this is it, like.
Fuck!
Is this going to be the time I wind up back in the hospital or what?
Oh, shit, yeah, man.
God.
I gotta think, man, just, that type of, oh my God. And what the problem is like, I'm that clumsy fucker who like yesterday I was putting together a bookcase for my wife, and then I get a paper cut like out of nowhere, like a deep paper cut. And I'm like, fuck.
You sound like you got my luck.
Yeah. I was putting in a motor blower for my car because mine went, and got my finger snagged in the corner. You slide it in, man.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I pulled it out, and it looked like a little burn. And then weeks later, it's been a few weeks, I have like this little tiny deep hole in my finger. It's weird. And my son looked at it and he was like, that's weird. He's as interested as a 9-year-old could possibly be in weird stuff like that. But man, so let's talk about something that me and you were involved in that we weren't involved.
I got a few more questions. Hang on, we'll get there.
All right, go ahead. Yeah, all right. I don't know if you wanted to go that way, but right, go ahead.
Hang on. So, you grew up in Springfield, right?
Yes, I grew up in Springfield.
And you said you grew up kind of poor too. What was going on like back then? This is where we're getting into my part of the show now because I want to know about you.
Yeah. So if anybody knows, I grew up in a interesting neighborhood off of Hancock and Queen Street, which is right around the corner from State Street. And if anybody who is listening to this show lives in that area, I believe my friend Dylan lives in that area currently. They know it's not probably one of the nicer neighborhoods in growing up. And to be honest with you, there was a lot of things there, man. My mom doing the best that she could. Like I said, my mom and my dad's relationship was kind of just friction, lots of friction. But the one thing I can say that was kind of like crazy to me was the amount of things that were going on that I didn't know about until I somehow, being a nosy person that I am, because I am nosy and my wife will tell you, found some things out about my family's life and found some things out about my father, my mother, particular situations in our lives and things that have gone on that kind of opened my eyes to make me feel like there's a lot of people lying to me right now, and when I got to the age of 15, 16 years old, I was always the yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir, kind of very quiet didn't rock the boat, if you will. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't the type to be like, you know, hey, mom, I'm not going to do this because whatever. Yes, ma'am, I'm going to take that trash out right now. Yes, ma'am. You know what I'm saying? My grandmother taught me to be that way. And it was just, you know, something that was instilled in me at a very young age. But when I got to 15, 16, and I kind of felt like everything that everybody was telling me was either a lie or somebody was hiding things from me, because there were some certain aspects about my personal life that I didn't know until later on. And I felt like this kind of would have been something to help me progress as a human being. But inside of me, I snapped. You know, I became pissed off for the right reasons, but handled it the wrong way.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying, man? I felt like I was mad for, I should be mad because I feel like people are keeping things from me, or I didn't know things that I should know about my life, about who I am, or who I'm related to, or who I wasn't related to. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, I think because of, like I said, my mom and father's relationship, I didn't really know who my father was until I was about 7 years old. Up until then, I had thought that a gentleman that my mom had been with for years, who ended up in jail, was my father. And for the longest time, you couldn't tell me different. I was black. You know what I'm saying? Because that's who I thought my father was. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, my mom did the best that she could, you know, and if she is listening to this, you know, I still love you, Mama. We did what we had to do to get through our lives, but there were certain points in time where, you know, she frustrated me. She hindered my progression as growing as an adult, you know, and I'm sure she has her reasons and views on why that was. And, you know, the same thing with my father. I felt like my father wasn't a fighter for me. You know, I felt like if it would involve any type of dispute, he would step away. You know, he's not someone who's going to go to bat. You know what I'm saying?
My dad was kind of the same way. Like he would just shut down and like, you know, walk away from an argument, which would piss off my mother even more. My mother was almost the same way, but like my mother's very loving and supportive. Don't get me wrong, but like growing up, she would be like, you know, oh, you're listening to Korn, like aren't they a devil band or whatever? Like I don't want you listening to that. And I'm like, I'm gonna listen to it even more now because you don't want me to listen to it. You know what I mean? And then like just getting progressively heavier than that. She was like, if you ever get a tattoo, I'm gonna disown you. And I'm like, oh, I'm getting a tattoo then. Like, you know, just like shit like that. Like I was that kid that would, you know, secretly do stuff behind.
It would instigate your behavior. You're just like, oh, okay, you don't want me to do what? Oh yeah. I'm about to do all that.
My father was like, I'll murder you if you get a tattoo. And then like I come home and he was, you know, I got a couple tattoos at, you know, this is after 18 or whatever. And then I show him, he was like, you look like a goddamn road map.
I think my mom was upset when I got my very first tattoo, and I don't have a lot. I've got maybe 4 altogether, but my first one was probably the biggest piece that I have on me. And at first I believe my mother was very upset, but when she realized that it was her initials at the top of it, she kind of like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of my tattoos, I have my father's name. I have my favorite number 13 tattooed on my ankle. I
got that on the back of my neck.
Exactly. It's the day me and my wife got married, September 13th. Because it was a Friday the 13th.
Oh, no shit. My grandmother was born Friday the 13th, June 13th, 1913, and my nephew.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and yeah, my nephew is the 13th great grandchild, and there's
crazy.
Couple other 13s that have run in my family. I can't think of right now, but like it's always been like a number in my family.
You want to hear something even crazier? The intro to my show has the from Friday the 13th. My friend Brandon knows that if anybody doesn't know, Brandon Cooper wrote my intro for my show. And if anybody knows anything about me, I'm a big Friday the 13th fan. Jason.
Did you play the video game?
Yes, I actually have it. I have it. Yes.
I fucking love that game.
Yes, one of my favorite games. There were some things that were a little bit frustrating about that game, but we can get into that another time for real, man.
Well, just briefly, they can't update it anymore. They got sued, and there's it's not about the licensing or whatever, but they can't update the game anymore. And it sucks, but whatever.
Well, it's better than the purple Friday the 13th for Super NES. Which is funny because that's actually an unlockable in the game. If you've played it yet, you can actually get him to be the purple Jason.
That was my Jason skin whenever I played. Yeah.
Anyway. So 13's kind of like a smiling like number. But anyways, as it pertains to my father, as I've grown up, me and his relationship has kind of like gotten better, gotten worse, gotten even better. It's kind of like a seesaw sometimes.
Mm.
But he respects me as the man that I am right now, and that's what I was looking for. I never wanted anybody to worship me. I wanted people to respect the fact that I could do exactly what I said I was going to do. If I told you I was going to go hike a mountain and I was going to do it in 2 days instead of 3 days like everybody else, that's something that to me I need to do. Being a man of what you say you're going to do.
Mm.
Especially when I was growing up as a kid, and once again, no shot at my mom, but there were times where she'd be like, hey, we're going to go so-and-so. Then the day would come and we didn't go.
Mm.
It was a situation to where now I tell my kids, hey, we're going to go to so-and-so. Oh, you best believe me and my kids are going. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it's one of those things. And I think besides molding me as an artist, because I was able to write a lot of what I was feeling at the time. And if you actually listen to the podcast that my mom was on, she tell you she cried a lot when she found that folder where I had something like 24 songs written, and each song was just anger and vile and just so many pent up emotions.
But it was your way.
Situation.
It was your way of getting it out, though, and
Mm-hmm.
it's healthy to get it out that way because
Best.
For me, like unfortunately, when I was going through my shit, especially during my parents' divorce, like as much as they don't like to admit it, both my parents were kind of butting heads and kind of making their kids choose, make them choose sides. Mostly, my father. And finally, I just snapped one day, and I told him, I was like, I'm sick and tired of you, bashing my mother. You know what I mean? Like, whatever the fuck happened between the two of you is not my business. And I'm sick and tired of you trying to force me to choose sides because you don't even know what kind of shit you're doing to your kids by doing that. You know what I mean? I was like, mentally, I'm mentally drained from all this shit. I was like, you know how many times I've stayed up at night crying and like begging to like not wake up the next day, and how much I just want my life to end because I can't deal with this anymore. And he didn't know what to say after that. And, putting him in his place like that really, I don't know if it was a wake up call to him or something, because we never really talked about it ever since then. But, it's just something that, my father, like I've said in my podcast plenty of times, like he has his own demons, and I don't want to sit here and bastard my father at all, but like he's a good man. Don't get me wrong. He's taught me good work ethics. He put food on the table. He put a roof over my head, put me through school and everything. But like his mentality and his life lessons that he tried pushing on me and the rest of my family at a young age, I've had to slowly unlearn as I grew older, and I've had to go through therapy to unlearn it, because I would be told you can't trust people, you can't trust your friends, you can't trust your family, and then finding out that my father had issues trusting me and my siblings and stuff like that. I'm like, how can you not trust your own flesh and blood? You helped create us, and we're only looking out for your well-being, and you're keeping secrets from us that affect all of us. You know what I mean? Like his heart attack, for instance. He had a heart attack a few years ago, and he didn't tell us. He didn't tell any of us. He called me the week after he was already home and out from the hospital, and said, hey, listen, I'm just letting you know I had a heart attack last week. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why wouldn't you call me? Or like, I thought I was
have somebody to call me.
I was like, I thought I was one of your emergency contacts. Why didn't nobody contact me? And I just got really angry at him, and for good reasons. And another reason that him and I are very distant right now is because I talked about in the last episode I did with Desiree that my father got remarried some time ago. I was the only one that knew about that. He did not. He did not.
Wow.
He did not want to tell the rest of my family, and I found out by accident. He did not want anybody else to know about it because he was afraid that my mother was going to collect alimony from him, or like this person was going to do this or this or whatever. And I'm just like, the fact that you're telling me not to tell anybody about your personal life. First of all, I don't give a shit about your personal life. That's your personal life. You know what I mean? You want to be with somebody and be happy. That's fine. That's your business. But what does make it my business is shit like this. You had a heart attack, or like your health is on the line right
Mm-hmm.
now, and your new family isn't doing anything to help you. You know what I mean? And then the
Mm-hmm.
fact that you can't trust me or the rest of my siblings to be there for you is fucked up. And then for even more, like I said this shit to him years ago, like, God forbid, what if something ever happened to you? How am I
Mm-hmm.
going to explain this other family that you have to
Oh
your
yeah.
kids? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, God forbid you're on your deathbed and you can't be responsive, and then they know me. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, this isn't fair to me. You know what I mean?
No,
And
for real. For real.
I would be the fucking bad guy here, and
Mm-hmm.
he never really took it into consideration that I'm fucking up my son's life here, you know, for the rest of, you know, for his family. And finally, after his heart attack, I snapped. I had it. I was like, I'm fucking telling, like, I can't do this anymore. So I told my brother and my sister. It was very emotional, very like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, there was anger. Don't get me wrong. There were some tears and stuff because they were about ready to storm his house before I told them all this, because
Yeah.
they were pissed off about the heart attack thing too, that he didn't call us. And you know, I told him, I was like, listen, you don't want to go there, like, especially right now if he's
Mm-hmm.
home from the hospital. I was like, but you guys need to know this too. And then that's when I told
Mm-hmm.
them. Then I ended up telling my mother, and now, you know, my mother had my back though. She was like, I can't believe he made you keep that from all of us for this long. Like,
Mm.
she was like, I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at him, and, you know, for putting you through all that shit. And I'm just like, look, like, I wanted to tell you guys for so long,
Yeah.
but, and this is why there's this wall between my father and
Mm-hmm.
I right now. Like, um, you know, and I went through therapy to like unravel a lot of this stuff. And I was also dealing with shit with my siblings at the time too. And, um, you know, just telling them all, like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not keeping your bullshit, you
Mm-hmm.
know, in my life anymore. I'm not going to take your negativity anymore. I'm not going to be
Oh
supportive
yeah.
of the way you guys are living your lives. I have my own life to fucking live.
Yeah.
And your stress and your emotional baggage and negativity is weighing
Mm-hmm.
down my life to the point where I'm living an unhealthy lifestyle and losing sleep and whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it anymore.
I
And
think that's one of those things with it, with now what's going on in the world, man. We need to look at that stuff even more now, and you need to think about going forward. You know, life is so short right now. Who do you need to keep in your life, and who do you need to remove for toxic reasons?
exactly. And and like, I want to have some sort of relationship with my
Mm-hmm.
father. Don't get me wrong. Like, I still care about him, but he's just at a point in his life where he's not going to change. And I've tried making him see that way for so
Mm-hmm.
long, and he just doesn't want to take those steps into, you know, building a better relationship with his kids, because we all have his best interests at heart. You know what I mean? Don't get
Mm-hmm.
me wrong. Like, I want him to slow down and take initiative and take better care of himself, but he doesn't want to. And I'm just afraid I'm going to get that phone call one day like, hey, dad's dead. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's
Yeah, I've got a similar situation, but unfortunately, it's my sister, and it's my middle sister. She has a strong drug habit, and you know, it's kind of affected a lot of our lives. For the simple fact is sometimes because whether it's we grew up in the same household, both me and my sister,
yeah,
and we both went through a lot of things that I would say were probably borderline, if not abuse, you know, in certain aspects, you know what I'm saying, in different, and you know, not even like throwing that on my mom, but from other family members we were living with. Unfortunately, growing up poor, you grow up in a household with other kids, you know, with other family members, and unfortunately things happen the way that they do. And for me, where it taught me everything I don't want in my life, or what I don't want for my kids, for my sister, it led her down another path, a very dark path, to the point where she's had 4 kids and she no longer has custody of them, you know, because of a very bad drug habit. And I remember a few years ago, she told my father that she was a warrior, and she was a warrior because she had gone and done things that we could never possibly imagine, the things she's had to do to deal with. And if you look at some of the reasons she explained, and I won't get into them because they're, to me, they're just stupid,
yeah,
just dumb, to think that just because someone put a gun in your face that makes you a better person than someone else and you lived through it, that doesn't mean shit, and it's one of those things that infuriates me, but it's a reminder of the things I want in my life and what I don't want in my life and the type of people I want to continue to provide in my life, because my kids are my kids. You know what I'm saying? My stepdaughter isn't mine, but she is mine. You know what I'm saying? I've been raising her. Me and her father have a great relationship. That's one of those weird things where, we shouldn't get along, but we do get along. I've got his number, he's got my number. You know what I'm saying? We talk from time to time, but he respects me and I respect him as her, biological father, but he also respects me as, this is my home. This is, me raising her as well too. You know what I'm saying? And we have that respect there. And it's weird in life we can have that kind of a relationship where there's relationships that I'm blood related with and I don't have that. You know what I'm saying? Don't have that connection or respect.
I feel you, man, because I feel like, as much as I love my family, and I'm always there for them, and my siblings and I get along better now than we did like a year or two ago. Cause 2018 into 2019 was a big emotional roller coaster for me. Personally, and not to totally veer off from what you're talking about.
No, you're good.
My ex and I were talking again, and I thought we were gonna get back together, and then because it kind of seemed like we were, and then she was catching feelings again, and I kind of had hope that we were gonna work things out. Next thing I know, she's talking to a friend of mine, and then they got together, and then I was drinking a lot more. It was becoming a problem, and at the same time, all this stuff was going on with me and my ex was when all this stuff was going on with my father and my siblings. My siblings, I'm not going to get into what they were doing, but they weren't really doing the right things in life. They were kind of taking advantage of our family. And my mother was just very concerned and very worried, to the point where I had to step up and say something in her honor, say, this is what's going on. We're cutting the line here, and you guys are not in charge of, you guys gotta
sink or swim. Yeah,
exactly. You guys gotta cut this shit out, because you're not gonna go to mom for shit anymore. You're gonna have to deal with me, and I'm gonna tell you no. And that's just kind of how it was. And then it just escalated into this whole big thing where I wasn't talking to my sister, I wasn't talking to my brother, and and I wasn't going to talk about this, but I'm going to so when all this stuff was going on, mentally, I was checked out and I didn't even realize it. And, Scott and Jeannie are, some of my best friends who I love very much. And I live alone, and I gave them a key to my apartment because I just felt at the time, I was like, you know what? I live alone. I don't really have a lot of people I can trust right now. God forbid, what if something happens to me? Somebody needs to feed my cat, or be there and get my shit out or whatever. Just planning ahead. So I gave Scott and Jeannie a key to my apartment, and I told Scott, I was like, hey, this is just for emergencies or whatever. Hold on to this. And Scott was like, are you all right? And I'm like, no, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just thinking ahead. This, that, and the other. In case something ever happens. He was like, all right, you seem kind of off. And I'm like, no, I promise I'm fine. And next thing I know, I'm writing out emergency contacts on a whiteboard that's on my fridge. I'm typing up stuff on my computer, in case the worst ever happens, these are my wishes, this, that, and the other. And then I finally came to the realization. I was like, I'm planning on killing myself. This seems like I'm planning on committing suicide. And, I just looked at all of it. I was like, I'm all the shit I was going through at the time, and telling my friends this, and then me planning all this stuff out. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Holy shit.
I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? I haven't been in this dark of a place in years. And then I immediately picked up the phone, and I was trying to find a therapist, because I was like, I have to do something about this, because I'm going to wind up hurting myself. And I was in therapy for about a year after that, twice a week, just getting all my shit out. And
yeah, man, that's that's another one of those things right now. Even now, myself, I'm feeling like I need to reach out to someone and talk with someone. And to be honest with you, this podcast has been helpful in that way. I get to talk to different people, to people like yourself, man, to kind of talk about how we are truly all in this together, but we're just having to, bide our times and do different things there was a few things that I had planned for this show this past year that unfortunately, due to the situation, we had to take a left on it. And we had to change some things from in-person meetings to, over the phone or over Zoom kind of phone conversations and stuff. But it is what it is, man. And like I keep going back to that same thing. If you get anything out of what's going on in this world right now, it's how you need to change your life and how you need to progress forward, because unfortunately something like this could happen again. And hell, who knows how much longer until they either figure out a vaccine or a way to treat this entire situation before we're back here again and having to isolate ourselves even more than what we had to before, unfortunately. So, just kind of, I don't know, man. I want to inject some more positivity, man. I don't know if you're like me and you want to make sure that life is going forward and giving people, hey, man, it's shitty right now, but it's gonna get better.
Yeah, and that's why I started this podcast too, because I did 2 podcasts about pop culture, and I'm like, as much as I love pop culture stuff, I mean, it's basically a genre at this point. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to try something different and like talk to my friends and talk more about mental health, because I was at the time, when I started this podcast, I was like, I kind of feel like I still need to talk about some stuff with friends I can connect with, and maybe we can get through together and connect with an audience, kind of like how you and I would do with music, connecting with other people. And so far it's been working out pretty well. I've got supporters like you hitting me up and telling me that I'm doing a great job. And I've got friends hitting me up telling me like, dude, like my first episode with Josh, like one of my friends hit me up, like, I had no idea like those different perspectives on depression were like that. That's so crazy. And it just made him think in a completely different way. And I'm like, all right, there's something to this podcast here. Like it's definitely going somewhere, and I have a good feeling about it.
Yeah. A couple episodes ago, I had WWE superstar Leo Rush on my show. And
How'd that
he
go?
was even talking about mental health, man. It was good, man. He's a great guy to have a conversation with, man. And like you said, he was bringing up mental health issues because he's talking about being 25 and being as successful as he was, but still feeling like he wasn't happy. You know what I'm saying? And that's crazy to think, man. That dude, if you think about it, WWE is the pinnacle of whatever you would want to be as a professional wrestler. No disrespect to AEW. AEW is building up, but
it's so cutthroat there too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like anybody in that locker room, like they're all going towards the same goal, and they'll take you out to get there. You know what I mean? I can't imagine that kind of pressure. You know what I mean? Like. Oh.
No, and to be honest, he has the talent. He has the talent to do that, man. But it's just, at some point you think, is it really worth the money? Is it really worth the heartache? Is it really worth trying to get someone to understand who you are and how to present that? And I think that's a beautiful thing about what we get to do as podcasters. We get to kind of present ourselves and show people different sides of ourselves, and that we're not just, hey, I'm not just AJ, former vocalist of In the Red and Devil Inside. I'm AJ the person. I'm AJ the human being. I'm AJ who's just like you. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the awesome part of this whole thing here.
So before we go into the Devil Inside stuff, do you suffer from any mental illness?
I do not, but unfortunately, my daughter does. My daughter, unfortunately, goes through those things, and she has therapy as well as she takes medications and stuff like that.
Okay.
My son deals with some different aspects of, I would say they're along the line of mental health issues. You know what I'm saying? He's not where every kid his age should be, unfortunately, but we're all working through that. And as there's good days, there's bad days, you know what I'm saying? Especially for my daughter, with this. Unfortunately, we've had a few blow-ups, in her dealing with what she's dealing with. And, it makes me love my child even more, because I love her because she's a human being and she's trying to express herself. But unfortunately, inside of her just won't let her be the happy her that she is.
How old is she?
10.
10. And what kind of stuff does she like to do?
I mean, okay, so she is not your typical girl, okay? First of all, she's into anime, she's into BTS, but she's not into extremely girly things, even though those kind of things kind of border on that line. But she loves video games, man. She loves the Fortnite. She plays like the Apex game. She plays a lot of different type of games. there's a game that we both like called Project Diva, where it's like kind of like a song game where you kind of like smash the buttons too, almost like a DDR type deal.
Yeah. Does she
We
like to
both
draw? Does she like to draw at all?
Oh my God, bro. Speaking of that, she is an absolutely fucking amazing artist for being 10 years old, man. If it wasn't because I knew it would embarrass her or make her feel kind of some way, I would ask her to show you some of her stuff. But she's a very much her responses to certain things aren't as how you or I would handle them. You know what I'm saying? For me to show her if I were to show you her art, it would almost be embarrassing for her, or it would almost make her feel very uncomfortable.
I mean, I draw too. I
Yeah.
I do a lot of fan art and stuff. I haven't done anything in a while,
Mhm.
but I do a lot of portrait designs and stuff like that
Mhm.
too. So I mean, like I'm always open to like giving out tips or whatever like that, or like
Yeah.
I don't know if does she watch a lot of YouTube? Because I could
Yes.
suggest. Okay, so there's this channel called Drawfee. This is a free plug, by the way, for the Drawfee
Okay.
channel, because
Drawfee.
I love them.
Okay.
They're absolutely hilarious and amazing.
Mhm.
And what they will do is a lot of the time they'll do like a lot of mashups between two different genres, and they'll do like really like funny kind of mashups,
Mhm.
and they'll apologize for the drawings at the end of it because like like they'll take like Pikachu and mix it with like Full Metal Alchemist or something like that,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
it's just some absurd thing. And then like they'll laugh and have a good time as they're doing it, but they're like, oh my God, this is so bad, but I love it. Like this, that, and the other. And then they'll just like hype it up and like add
Yeah.
suggestions and stuff. And then at the end, they're like, yeah, we're really sorry, everybody. And then like the video
No,
ends. That would like, I would suggest something like
Draw
that,
free.
or like
Okay.
drawing from memory challenges too are really fun.
Yeah.
Um,
She's one of those. The cool
it
thing about
takes my mind off of a lot of stuff going on.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
My mother figured out early on that that's something she was into. So we have numerous notebooks and drawing books and drawing pads and whatnot, so the kids can kind of, even as far as like the transfer paper where you can kind of trace things and kind of get things. But she's so in. The one thing I will say about my daughter, she's so in her own lane. She does like her own thing. Like what you would want her to do is not what she is going to do. She's going to do something that's in her own lane and her own thing. And it reminds me a lot of my wife sometimes, even though sometimes, my wife is very much in her own lane, but there's some things that, would consider a basic girl thing, you know what I'm saying? Whereas my daughter, there's absolutely nothing basic about her. If she likes something that's girly, it's more of a surprise than anything, you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Whereas my son, he loves monster stuff. He loves big, loud, banging things, just like a boy. He's a boy. You know what I'm saying? He wants to make loud noises. He wants to see people punch people. He wants to see crazy things. The only thing he doesn't like is spicy food and horror movies. So, but no, yeah, that's like I said,
it's always about finding
Mhm.
distractions and other things to help inspire too. To like, I've always found creativity helps with my depression. So,
Oh yeah,
if anything creative
Mhm.
that drawing or whatever that might help her, it's always helped me. So, I mean, that's my
she's
only
good. She's
suggestion.
good at a lot of those things, and like I said, it's a process, and hopefully, me and my wife's goal is to help her continue to progress as a human being, because that's the most important thing to me in the world. If I were to die today, is that my kids grow up and become productive human beings, not just for society but for themselves, that they can sustain themselves in a way that they, at the end of the day, things could be rough, but still know that everything's going to be okay, because tomorrow is a new day and we can change what we have. And that sounds like something on a fucking postcard or some shit, but to me, that's what's important to me. It's making sure that my kids continue to keep progressing and keep building themselves as people, and to the point where they can be self-sufficient, but also understand that it's okay to ask for help as well.
Yeah, well, that's good.
That's a big deal for me.
That's good. All right, so do we want to get into Devil Inside?
Oh man, okay, so yeah, man, we got to talk about this, man. A lot of people, I've had Ty on my show before, who was the vocalist before me, and I guess
he was the
would be
vocalist after me.
Exactly. So now I'm just shooting the triple shot and gonna have the trifecta of Devil Inside vocalists.
I listened to the episode where he had the guys on too. That was pretty fucking funny, by the way. So.
Let me tell you something. It was hilarious for so many reasons, because I don't know if a lot of people don't know. I have equipment, but I don't have high end equipment. So unfortunately, I was I was the mic control arm and swinging it around to make sure I could get everyone's everyone's voice and just talk about everything. And it was a good episode. I feel like those
Yeah.
guys got the chance to do stuff. So let's talk about how it started for you, man.
So like I said earlier, basically I left in the red in like 2015, 2016 around there. And I wanted to get back into music, but like not right away. I kind of wanted the right fit. And I put my band mix profile back together. I updated it with some songs that I did within the red. And Steve emailed me like within a matter of days. And I got back to him and he told the story. He was with his wife at the Walmart and he was in the parking lot. And his wife was like, "Come on, we got to go." He says, "Hang on. I got an email here. I know who this guy is, and I want to get him in the fucking band. Hang on, I'm not going in yet." So he emailed me back, and we met up, and I was just like blown away how close he lives to me. So I was like, "All right, like this might work." So I met with him, and I met with Tom, and seemed to hit it off pretty well. It was definitely different for me though, for as far as like writing for the band, because like I love metalcore, but like I've always found it difficult to write for metalcore, and it was definitely challenging, but a good learning experience. I definitely think there's room for improvement for me if I was to ever get back into it, but it was also like they had the material written. I think at the time, this was it Brian or Matt, I don't remember. He was our drummer at the time, and I think Tom's brother was our bassist at the time too.
Yeah. I remember seeing some old videos of you guys.
And there was just a lot of stuff going on in between there, like besides the band. And then Matt ended up leaving, Tom's brother ended up leaving. We ended up getting my buddy Kevin to fill in on bass. And then, who was our drummer? Mike was our drummer for a little while. And, but it just seemed like we were just constantly like working on the same stuff. And then I brought in my old bass player, Chris, to record the stuff and, just to get a demo out at least. And, I don't know. It just wasn't really like getting up to the speed that I thought it was going to go to. And it's nothing against like Steve or Tom or anything. Like they had their vision of how they wanted things to get done, and that's cool and everything. But I felt like they were trying to take like a big leap into something that they weren't really ready for at the time. And like I was trying to save money too by getting Chris in to do the recordings, but they wanted to go immediately to Dexter's. I'm like, dude, Dexter's is like really expensive. Don't get me wrong, it's a good product, but like we really afford it right now. We're not really playing shows. We're really not that well known yet. And and it wasn't like we're butting heads or anything like that. It was just kind of like, let's slow down a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, let's try to like work all the kinks out and get something out first before we jump the gun like that. And, it was just like stuff like that. And then like, I was doing it for about a year. We had like 3 songs and, recorded, I should say. We played like a few others and a couple covers. We did like a couple of shows. And by the time 2017 was almost over, my father was getting sick and his health wasn't all that great. And I wasn't really feeling it anymore because like I kind of felt like towards the end, my take or my critiques towards what we should be doing weren't really being heard anymore. And like I said, I'm not bashing Tom, I'm not bashing Steve or anything. It was their project and everything, but like saying everybody has a say in the band to, hey, this is what's going on, and Steve and Tom have the final say, and here's this giant contract we want you to sign. I'm like,
whoa.
Yeah, okay. No, I don't.
Interesting.
I don't think so. Like I'm not really willing to partake in that. I don't know any band that does that. And if it's something that, you want creative control over, that's something that should be brought up before you bring in new members. You know what I mean? Like right at the beginning. And I was like, all right, like I've got other things I got to worry about in my life right now. I don't want to, repeat of what I already went through with my last band. So, and they're great guys, you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. They're all great guys and I love hanging out with them. I just didn't want to wind up butting heads about stuff that I didn't agree with or anything like that. So I was just like, let me just dip out and not focus on music for a while. Let me focus on other stuff in my life right now that needs more priority than this right now.
For real.
So my last show with Devil Inside was the Opus birthday bash at Toad's Place, um, and I think it was 2017.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. And that was it. I mean, I got a really nice send off. The guys are really supportive and everything like
Hmm.
that, and that was it. So and then Ty joined shortly after that.
Yeah. So I kind of, to kind of even begin, I joined in a shroud of darkness, in the sense that, so basically what happened was I was in a band called Years of Vengeance, and I love those guys. But unfortunately, things happened the way that they happened. There was some selfishness, there was some disrespect, and there was a lot of, no, I'm not going to do this, you're going to do this, or I'm not doing this because I'm this, whatever, it happens. Someone has to think that they're bigger than what's actually going on. And that band broke up. And literally the day that I announced that was going on, Tom hit me up and was like, hey, man, sorry to hear about your band, but, he's like, we're looking for a vocalist right now. And at that time, I don't even think they had announced that Ty was gone, or that they were like, yo, it's over, Ty, And to be honest with you, I think I practiced with them for like a month and a half before they actually even told Ty, you're out of the band.
Yeah, I listened to that episode. For my listeners, go back and listen to the Devil Inside episode. It was yeah. So
yeah. It was a little rough, man, because I'm a grown ass man and I do things the way I want to do them. But before that even happened, let me explain to you. We were playing a show with them when I was in Years of Vengeance, and there were I could kind of tell Tom and Steve aren't the type of guys to show you interest unless you're a band that they want to, know a little bit more about. And I just kind of had this feeling that Tom and Steve were specifically watching my performance that evening. And one, I was very appreciative of it. It was fun. It was, we were playing with them when, with Ty on vocals, and it was a good time. And I went over to my wife and I was just like, I've got this weird feeling I'm going to be in Devil Inside. She goes, what makes you say that? And I was just like, I don't know, just something about the situation. It was almost like their ears perked up when they heard something that they liked, or they heard something I did that they were interested in. And I thought that was really cool. If anything, I was just like, oh, well, these guys are showing me some love, showing me some, they enjoyed what I did. And that's pretty fucking awesome. In both teeth. I did it before. Teeve. Yeah. Tom and Steve. Fucking Teeve. Yeah. Both of them. Because if you know anything about Tom and Steve, they are like weird twin brothers.
They really are. They really are. It's so funny sometimes too to see how much alike they are.
It is crazy, man. I love them.
Steve does this thing too where he's just like, if he wants to make you weird and uncomfortable, like he'll just like give you a look like he's ready to mount you, and then like he'll stick his like his finger in his stomach or in his belly button and give you like a here.
I'm gonna tell you right now, the first time I went and I practiced with them, and Steve had.
Don't tell me he did the gum thing.
No. Oh yeah, no. Oh man. Well, first of all.
Oh man, I sat in gum. He's got his nutsack hanging out. I'm like,
my God. So first, no, he didn't do that to me. He did send me a lot of uncomfortable videos we will not talk about. But first of all, I felt weird because there were more guns at this practice than I've seen in a hip hop video.
Yes.
And it was just like, oh my God, it just made me laugh because it was just like, okay, so I didn't know we needed to be packing to go to practice. You know what I'm saying? Didn't know I needed to, have everything going. But and once again, I don't ever want it to. I'm telling you right now, Steve and Tom are excellent guitar players. Mm-hmm. They're excellent dudes, man. I love. If there's anybody you want to go have
Steve
a beer
is also
with,
a cop too, by the way, for my listeners. So yeah.
So hide your weed. I'm just messing with you. But
Steve, I smoke weed. You gonna come arrest me? No, because I got glaucoma. So.
No, they're the type of guys that if you want to go out and have a few beers with, you're gonna be pissing your pants before the night's over with, man.
So
yeah,
funny.
They're jokesters. They're funny, cool guys. But when I first went to practice, I could definitely tell Steve was definitely into my vocals. The faces he would make when I hit certain things. And it's no disrespect to what Ty did. To be honest with you, if you were Jesse, Ty was Howard. Okay, all right, and that's how I kind of viewed it. That if you were Jesse Leach, Ty was Howard, and he came in, and I feel like he established certain things, especially because, you know, the album, The Darkest Parts of Me, features him so heavily. And Ty has a great voice. So, you know, I've always enjoyed what Ty does. He's powerful. He's got a beautiful singing voice. And then I felt like, yo, I'm not saying that I'm not as good as him, and it's not to say that I'm better than him in any way. I felt like I could provide something similar and then put my own flavor on it, my own spice on it, if you will. As my mom would say, put a little more adobo on it, if you will. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of, you know, what I tried to do. I came in trying to be a Ty clone because I wanted to kind of fit in within everything. But then once I started to get comfortable after a few months, I started kind of doing my own thing, adding my own things, similar to what Ray, who became the drummer after Zach, kind of did. You started to hear him start adding his own sound, especially live. You can hear some change ups and some fills that were a little bit different than what you heard on the record. And it kind of motivated me to say, okay, well, if he's doing that on that instrument, you know, why can't I provide that same thing for the vocals and stuff like that? And the thing that kind of was killing me after a while was I felt like I was just there to be Ty, as opposed to just be Blue, you know, be me, be who I am as a vocalist, as a singer, as a writer. And I was kind of trying, to be honest with you, in a nonchalant way, I was kind of being aggressive about, hey man, I want to write some shit, man. We need to write some new songs, man. We need to put some shit together, man. I want to put some stuff together. But I felt like where you got the high-strung version of Steve and Tom, I got this is our fourth kid, we're in our 50s and we're not trying to raise him anymore type kid. Because you could definitely tell it was a different devil inside. They were motivated, but not as motivated as they probably were in the beginning. And at this point, the other thing that was killing me too was playing shows for the sake of playing shows, and as opposed to building the brand.
And honestly, it's a lot with what was going on at the scene too at the time too. I felt like the scene was changing a lot too, I mean, like it was always hard, you know what I mean? Like to get supporters to come out and see the shows or finding venues to play at. And unfortunately, a lot of venues were closing down or they didn't want original bands anymore. They wanted cover bands. And it's very hard to make it in the local music scene in New England these days. And what they said in that episode, if they had what the formula they had, like 10 years ago, it probably would have worked out a lot better. But unfortunately, it's just, nowadays, man, it's just very hard, you know.
I felt like those guys were extremely good at what they did, and then after a while, we started to gel, man. The gelling that happened from the first show, which my first show was Phil Anselmo and the Illegals, to the last show that we played, I felt like it was crazy. It was like a great car. We were flowing on all cylinders. So that's why my motivation became, yo, I need to get these guys to write some shit, man, because there's a fluid here, there's emotion here, and to be honest with you, I was kind of feeling the way that I felt when I was back in Florida. But you are right. You know, this has been, to be honest with you, it's been kind of a culture shock coming from Florida, the music scene, where the music scene is in every genre. It doesn't matter if it's indie, doesn't matter if it's hip hop, doesn't matter if it's rock or metal. There's a base there. There's a fan base there. There's people who want to see there. And even if they're not a fan of you, they still want to come out and see that live original music. Or they do, you know, cover bands in Florida are kind of a taboo thing unless you're playing like, you know, some place on the beach where, you know, it's our reggae night, or it's our, you know, $5 cocktails night, and we're gonna have, you know, Appetite for Destruction, Guns N' Roses cover band, you know what I'm saying, that type of deal.
And that's how you make it as a local musician. You got to go out and tour. You can't just play the same venues in the same state, because it gets oversaturated after time. And especially if you're playing like more than 2 shows a month, you know what I mean? Like it's so oversaturated. Like not the same people are going to come out and see you play.
I love Steve and Tom. I do.
And that was my point to the guys when I was in that band. I was like, oh, we got to get out and we got to play. I'm like, yeah, but we need a product that we can put out first, as well as like establishing connections with other musicians, and then eventually getting out of state. Like this is all stuff I learned while I was within the Red that I was trying to tell them. And, you know, and again, I'm not trying to be the bad guy here and bash anybody, but I mean, like I was coming in with experience and trying to tell them, the plan and like, this is what I think we should do to get back to, the level that I was at and bring you guys with me. And they just wanted to pull the trigger already and just go gung ho. And then, like you said, by the time you joined, they were kind of like, yeah, we're kind of done with this. You know what I mean? Like, it was,
I came to one practice and I was being aggressive as I was before about writing some new shit. And then that's when Tom kind of dropped on us, hey, I'm moving to Arizona. And that kind of and the crazy part with me mentally at that time, I was just like, all right, whatever, I'm going to keep rolling. And I ended up taking Josh and Ray and with my other friend, Brandon, kind of starting something new. But unfortunately, with personalities and things that kind of devolved and broke down very quickly too with Misery Chord. And I love all those guys and I love all that stuff. And my thing was I was like, well, talent's gonna come together and be the thing that brings us together, but also ignoring the fact that there were personality issues with each one of them and they didn't gel as much as before. And I will say thank you to Tom and Steve, and I appreciate them giving me the opportunity to be a part of Devil Inside because I do feel like it was a great opportunity and I had fun. And a lot of people talked to me and asked me certain things, because I was in Devil Inside and appreciate what I did, even though that's kind of hard. It's like I said, it's like trying to follow up after Beyonce and I'm like, I don't know, Billie Eilish, and I'm over here trying to fill in where Beyonce was and like the new Destiny's Child, if you will. It's a weird analogy, but you know where I'm coming with it. You know what I'm saying? Beyonce was the group. Then you're just like, fuck, how am I supposed to follow that? But I felt like I had the ability, I had the chops, and I know they had their own issues with Ty too. There was a lot of things there, and it's an unfortunate thing that it's no longer here. But we got together over the past what was it, February?
I did see March, the reunion show.
Yeah, we got together and we jammed it out. We had some fun. We got to meet some people, and surprisingly, we made some money. That was the weird part. We actually made some money.
Well, that's good, man.
There were so many times where I've gone to a show and been like, yeah, man, I drove all the way from Massachusetts and it takes me like an hour 45 minutes to get here. What are we doing? Why are we playing this fucking hole in the wall place? And I felt bad because, like I said, it just seemed like Tom and Steve were kind of a little checked out. But like I said, I love those guys. I love their passion. And they're on to different and bigger and better things in their life, Steve being a cop. Tom seems to be doing well in Arizona with him and his wife. And that's great.
And I think Steve said, because I ran into Steve not too long ago. I'm trying to do like a studio album whenever the fuck this coronavirus shit comes down. And I asked Steve if he wanted to maybe write a couple tracks with me and just strictly studio album style. And he was all for it. And then he was talking to me about Tom, and like, I know Tom's out in Arizona and everything, but I guess he went for a ride along with one of the local cops out there. I guess Steve set it up for him. And like after the ride along, Tom was like, yeah, I want to do this. Like, so I think Tom's got the bug now where he wants to be a cop. I know he's a CO.
That's what he's
I know
doing
he's
right
a
now.
CO right now, but I think he wants to be a cop now, which is really cool. So I'm all supportive of that. Definitely.
Oh man, imagine those two jokesters with guns on their hip and could legally pull your ass over. You're in trouble.
I'm seeing Super Troopers in my head. Like
exactly. Do you need some assistance, bear fucker?
All right, meow. Are you saying meow? Am I saying meow? Like, do you see a salsa?
Exactly. Oh my God, that's such a great movie. But it like I said, I don't want this to seem like it's a bad thing, man. And out of being in Devil Inside, man, and then after Misery Chord, man, it just made me realize, I'm at a particular, and this sounds weird because I'm only in my 30s, man. But it made me realize maybe right now music isn't the thing for me. Maybe being a dad, being about the family life. But then, after a couple of months of annoying my wife and talking about it, my wife just looked at me and just said, shut the fuck up and do podcasting already, okay? Because you're talking too much about it and you're not doing anything about it, as much as and once again, you consider the source. It was the way she said it was kind of aggressive, but she said it in a way that was like, hey, you can do it, just do it.
It was the kick in the ass he needed.
Yeah. Exactly, man.
Yeah.
And
sometimes we need that.
Like I said, this has been a great experience, and I get to talk with you, man, and hopefully maybe we'll get to do another crossover show. Maybe we'll do it with all the other Devil Inside guys. We'll bring all the the old members and new and last members, and just one room full of just former Devil Inside guys just
I can't
Bullshitting
imagine
me.
how that would end well.
I think a fight might break out, but then at the end of it, I
No,
think we'd all have a
no,
drink. We'd
no.
all have a drink and be good.
I don't think a fight would break out. I just think like a lot of shenanigans would happen, good and bad, and then I'd just be like, okay, I gotta go. Click.
Exactly. Yeah, this is getting weird.
Yeah.
Why is Steve holding up a naked picture of someone naked?
Steve's doing the gum trick. It's time for me to go. Click.
Yeah. No, but AJ, this has been an awesome experience, man.
And
this is the longest podcast I've ever done, man. Almost 2 hours, brother.
I know. I'm looking at the time. Yeah. And thank
Holy
you for doing this with me too, man. And for reaching out and being so supportive of my podcast.
Hell yeah, man. And if anybody who's listening to my show right now doesn't know the roads we travel with AJ Pelletier, please go like him, man, on Facebook, Instagram. He's on Spotify. He's on Apple, man. Go check him out, please.
Yep. And for my listeners, definitely check out Blue Presents a Podcast. He's basically on everything you can get podcasts on, so definitely check that out.
Hell yeah, man.
So, Blue, thank you again, man.
No, thank you, man, for
real.
real.
Thank you.
God damn it. No, thank you, good sir. All right, guys. We'll check you out later.